I awoke in the squid submersible, Bastian's warm hand encasing mine, his eyes shining with relief as I blinked up at him groggily. Regina flashed me a smile from where she sat by a tilted porthole, the deep blue of the Mediterranean visible beyond. "We left Thetis? Already?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Glancing out the porthole, I watched in amazement as the Thetis habitat fragmented into 6 modules that jetted off in different directions, disappearing into the vast expanse of the sea.
"Our visits have to be brief, or we risk being detected,"
Alcippe explained.
"We're slowly decompressing now. The Calypso will rendezvous with us shortly."
A spike of panic jolted through me as I searched frantically for my backpack, containing the invaluable copy of the Voynich Manuscript and our research notes. Finding it tucked safely beside me, I rummaged through it, hoping against hope to find a stray protein bar to quiet my growling stomach. No such luck, not even a forgotten stick of gum. Sighing, I pulled out the copy of the Voynich instead, hoping to distract myself from the gnawing hunger. As I flipped through the pages, I tried to discern connections between the cosmological charts and the Antikythera mechanism we had witnessed. Page after page was filled with mesmerizing circular diagrams, adorned with symbols of celestial bodies in their different phases, the sun, moon, and stars progressing through intricate cosmic dances. Even in their naive, hand-drawn style, the charts seemed to hold some kernel of scientific truth. I quickly checked online, and some of the ninjas even claimed they could translate Hebrew star names within these diagrams, such as Ayin, which they believed referred to Epsilon Tauri, known as the Eye of the Bull. Some claims suggested the diagrams represented the night sky during the solstices. These connections hinted at a deeper understanding of astronomy. But as I delved deeper, my skepticism began to rear its head. Several folios depicted zodiac signs like Taurus, Aries, and Pisces in the center of concentric rings of naked and clothed human figures, mostly women. Each zodiac glyph was labeled with a corresponding month written in some recognizable language that presented similarities to modern-day English. Exhausted in both body and mind, I set the manuscript aside with a huff, wondering if it was merely an elaborate work of medieval pseudoscience masquerading as a cosmological treatise. Regina must have noticed my frustration. She leaned over, tracing a finger over the figures encircling Taurus.
"The meaning of these pages was altered in the Middle Ages,"
she said softly. Pointing to the month label under Aries, which read April, she continued,
"These month names aren't original to the manuscript. Someone tried to force a connection between the charts and the zodiac months."
Intrigued, I examined the pages more closely, comparing the month labels to the main Voynich script. The handwriting was clearly different. "You're right," I acknowledged. "So what do you think these diagrams actually represent?"
"They depict the precession of the astronomical ages,"
Regina replied, her face beaming with excitement.
"Each one lasting thousands of years, marked by the constellation that rose with the sun on the spring equinox. Science, pure science."
She flipped to the 2 elaborate Taurus charts, both labeled May.
"Look at the figures holding stars around the bull. Our order preserves an ancient tradition, an unbroken chain of passing down the identities of those who attain the highest level of initiation into the mysteries. The ones who completed the journey of the goddess in full and gained access to all 9 realms. These charts are a visual catalog of those figures, stretching back over 20,000 years of ritual and myth."
"So they're not just initiates, but the ones who achieved the ultimate spiritual mysteries?" I asked, my mind reeling at the implications. Regina nodded.
"Exactly. The 2 Taurus folios, for example, record those who attained epopteia, the highest grade of initiation, between roughly 4000 to 1700 BCE, when the age of Taurus held sway. That's the Minoan era, ended by the devastating Thera eruption. They also catalog those who greatly helped protect the truth of the goddess."
She guided me through the pages, pointing out how the structures around the figures evolved over the ages, from an absence of dwellings in the earliest eras of Scorpio and Libra, to Greco-Roman style designs in later Taurus and Aries, before the figures retreated to some sort of caves in the Piscean Age as the mysteries were driven underground by persecution. It was like watching the rise and fall of the mysteries unfold in the margins of the zodiac wheels. In the earliest ages, every figure was naked, reminiscent of the prehistoric Venus figurines.
The vast majority of surviving prehistoric sculptures are female, you know.
Alcipe chimed in as if reading my thoughts.
With the most ancient Venus figurines dated to 25,000 years ago or more. The goddess reigned supreme in the dawn of human culture.
What about Aquarius and Capricorn?
Bastian piped up, running a hand over the manuscript reverently.
They're not shown here.
We have no records yet of the ages still to come,
Regina replied with an enigmatic smile.
The zodiacs are a historical account only, separate from the balneological folios that detail the actual ritual process.
There's no way that you could be keeping records for tens of thousands of years. Can you prove it? Regina shook her head.
No, I cannot. We can't even read their names here.
She pointed at the script beside each figure.
But we know some of them from oral tradition and secret texts we've been collecting for millennia. Records safely stored in our safes.
I leaned in. Like who? Regina's gaze was filled with reverence.
A clay tablet with an account from the Mesopotamian poet Enheduanna, a high priestess of the moon goddess Inanna, and the earliest known author in the history of the world. Or Lady Margaret Cavendish's secret biography, the earliest known science fiction author. She kicked off the genre in 1966 with a multiverse novel.
Bastian snorted, eyeing the pages critically.
For a tradition spanning millennia, it sure doesn't seem to include many men. There's no men at all depicted in the last few eras. What? Did your ancient all-female cult not believe in gender equality?
We have identified one, which we will record the next time we create a copy of the books. But first we need to fully translate the Voynich.
Then she shrugged.
However, attempts to attain true epoptia are deadly to most men.
Even the emperors feared the power of the mysteries. The Hierophants would bar the path of the unworthy and criminal-minded before the rites began. Why, when Nero himself hoped to be initiated at Eleusis, he dared not show his face once he learned of the strict prohibitions.
Bastian crossed his arms defensively.
Oh, so now you're implying all men are criminals, is that it?
Regina held up a hand to stop their bickering.
Alcipe is not claiming that, but the historical records may well suggest it.
She gestured to the female-dominated images.
At the very least, it seems women played the central role in this particular spiritual lineage.
Alcipe smirked, her eyes twinkling impishly.
Well, we do have accounts from early Christian critics like Tatian claiming the mystery rites involved murder and cannibalism. So maybe the feminist Illuminati of old really did slaughter a few men.
She laughed heartily at her own joke. By my side, Bastian chuckled nervously, not quite sure if she was kidding.
Don't worry. Accounts of the rites suggest the sea can wash clean all the foulness of mankind.
As Regina and Alcipe's pessimistic views about men seeped into my consciousness, I couldn't help but recall the image of that imposing figure who had threatened me, his words sharp as knives, aiming to destroy my credibility with his vicious propaganda. I shut my eyes tightly, trying to block out the deepfake images that had been seared into my memory, but to no avail. The history of violence against women was an all-too-familiar reality, one we confronted daily in history books, news reports, and our own lived experiences. But this insidious strategy of silencing and discrediting women, the very same tactics used against trailblazers like Emily Hathaway, was something I had never fully grasped until this moment. From the persecution of healers practicing herbal medicine to the witch hunts that followed, the erasure and rewriting of history had paved the way for the burning of both women and the books that held their knowledge. Yet, as I turned to look at Bastian, who somehow found himself in the position of having to answer for the crimes of half of humanity, I couldn't help but feel a pang of empathy. Perhaps the greatest tribute we could pay to humankind was the acknowledgement that, at some point in our distant past, there existed civilizations where women and men played equally vital roles in society, where women were encouraged to learn, to write, to engage in the realms of mathematics and science, and were respected for their contributions. The history we were uncovering not only highlighted the remarkable achievements of women, but also shone a light on the great men who stood alongside them. Struggling to extricate myself from the tangled web of resentment, fear, and compassion that had taken hold of me, I turned to Regina, my curiosity piqued. "Who is this great man you've chosen to record for posterity?" I asked, eager to hear more. A smile played across Regina's lips as she began to recount an extraordinary tale.